have with us today Dr. Kadira Pethiyagoda, who is going to be running for the federal election from the Labour Party. Welcome to the morning show, Doctor.
Thanks for having me.
Doctor, you are mainly looking at foreign policy. You have a doctorate in foreign policy. You have a master's in foreign policy from Oxford University. What is this foreign policy? Does it really come to when it comes to practical living?
Yeah, so sorry, I'll just clarify. The Master's in International Human Rights Law.
Okay.
But yeah, the PhD looks at international relations and foreign policy. Well, I think foreign policy is a core aspect of policy for any government, for any country. When you talk about day-to-day living, I guess it's one of those areas of policy that people might take for granted. But it actually has a huge impact because it's what determines the security of the country, issues of war and peace. On the economic side, we are in a global economy now, so things like trade relationships can determine just what products you can get and whether you have a job, whether your economy is doing well. So foreign policy, I think, it's a major area of policy. But I think that it's an area in Australia and in a lot of other Western countries where the public are not that well informed, and the public, I believe, should be more engaged in determining and influencing foreign policy in a democracy.
So is that the reason why you're going into politics, making sure that you have the sort of the vehicle with the local people with foreign policy and getting them more sort of aware what foreign and how it impacts the local people?
I think that's one hope that I have of getting in to politics. The other one is, I guess, I've always had a strong sense of injustice and justice and fairness and equality, and those things really inspired me to run. Actually, so for example, I'm not the exact sure of the figures, but I think that the wealthiest 8 people in the world own as much wealth as the bottom half of the entire world's population. In Australia, inequality is the greatest. I think it's been in maybe 75 years or something like that. So I think that politicians really need to stand up more for ordinary people. And do the job that they're elected to do.
You were born in Sri Lanka and lived in Australia when you were 1 year, came to Australia, and then you were quite an academic, and then from academia you're moving into politics. Do you think it's a right move, or are you so convinced that you want to move into politics?
Well, I have had a long interest in politics. When I was 13, I watched the movie JFK by the acclaimed director Oliver Stone, and then I asked my Apache, what is this? What's the Cold War, the Cuban Revolution? What are all, and I became interested in politics in a global sense. So even when I joined the Foreign Service, and I wanted to influence policy, but I realized that you can't actually influence policy as a bureaucrat. In a very meaningful sense. As an academic, you get to influence the public debate and influence public opinion, which was good. But even that, I guess, it's not as influential as being a politician.
And you look at people, when you look at this type of inequality, you get people sort of going on protest march and stuff like that. Where do you stand with that?
I think that the pendulum has swung quite far in the direction of inequality. I think that after World War II, in a lot of Western countries, you had the welfare state, you had very high rates of development and social indicators, and quality of life improved quite immensely. And then in the last 30 or 40 years, it seems that certain forces have been trying to claw that back, and now you're getting a lot of underemployment. I think in some countries like the United States and the UK, it's worse than in Australia. Places where, and I think that's the result of that is you get elections of politicians like Donald Trump, and then even Bernie Sanders, who became popular. So,
do you see that stance in Australia as well?
I think there is in Australia. The similarity is that a lot of the people, because I go out door knocking and I speak to ordinary people all the time, and the view that I get is that they feel that the politicians and the establishment does not reflect their views, is not out there to help them. You had, like, for instance, the Banking Royal Commission, where they showed the banks were misbehaving quite badly and getting away with it for a long time. So I think people want to change in that sense.
And what area are you running for your?
So it's called Aston. So it's just very close to here. It includes Rowville, Wantirna, Scoresby, Knoxfield, Boronia, Bayswater, Ferntree Gully, and parts of Listerfield. So it's quite a large area. In the
so you already started door knocking. So you're looking forward. The election is going to be announced at any time now, isn't it?
Could be, yeah. I think it's likely to be in May. They were also talking about potentially in March, but I think more likely in May.
So that you'll be coming from the Ashton seat of Ashton, as you said.
Yeah.
And elections should be before May or during that period as well.
Yeah, in May probably. Yeah.
Dr. Kadira Pethiyagoda, running for the Ashton seat in the elections for Labour Party. What are your plans for the community?
I believe that that there should be greater support for community organisations, whether they be various multicultural community groups, whether they be sports clubs, whether they be churches, temples, old people's groups, senior citizens groups. I think those kind of organisations are quite important because a passion for me is getting more people active. I think there's more to life than going to work and coming home. I think that when you get active in your community and when you take part, it opens up a whole new world and another side to life. And I think that the Sri Lankan community watching this obviously is a very successful community in terms of their academic achievements and also economically mobile. And I think that it would be great for all communities, Sri Lankan, non-Sri Lankan, to get more active in these other aspects of life.
Fantastic. We look forward to the election. That was Dr. Kadira Pethiyagoda from the seat. We'll be contesting from the seat of Ashton. Wish you all the very best.
Thank you so much.